Did somebody say, we have a MLB slate tonight? Somebody cue that music. It's that time again, where full-time DFS pros give you what you need to succeed. It doesn't matter if you're shooting for a GPP takedown or trying to build your bankroll by hitting in cash. We've got you covered. No BS, just DFS. Welcome to On the RotoRadar with your host, Brittingham T and Two Minds Bluff.
Welcome to the Friday edition of On the RotoRadar, where we give you a game-by-game analysis of every MLB main slate, Monday through Friday. I'm your co-host, Two Minds Bluff.
And I'm Britt T. Today we've got a 14-game slate. I will cover the cash game aspects of today. Bluff will help you out with the GPP side of things. It's a massive slate. No time to waste. Let's jump right into it. Our very first game, the Miami Marlins and Vance Worley in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates and Tyler Glasnow. The Pirates are minus 127 favorites. This has a sneaky high run total of 10 for PNC Park, which is traditionally known as a pitcher's park. What's that tell you?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a total this high in Pittsburgh. But you got Vance Worley, who just isn't to me a starting pitcher, a major league level starting pitcher. I doubt he'll be along much longer. He's just kind of there as a placeholder for the Marlins right now. But you really don't love targeting hitters in this park just because it is tough to expect, a high output. And I mean, you see this run totals at 9.5 or 10 wherever you're looking, and you automatically have interest. But at the same point, you don't love anything. But for Vance Worley, I like targeting lefties more than righties, but he's got pretty neutral splits, so you can really find anyone in this Pirates lineup. Diaz at catcher batting 7th or 8th today. Makes a great catcher punt for me. He's also showing some ability to steal bases, and so if you're looking to pay cheap at catcher, I don't mind him. Obviously, Adam Frazier, Gregory Polanco are priced down on DraftKings for some reason. Usually with Vance Worley at 4K, they get a bump in their pricing, but Polanco's only 3.9K, Frazier's only 4.2K. It is unfortunate that Frazier's only eligible in the outfield on DraftKings. He used to be a second base outfielder, so that does take down his value. But Josh Harrison's really priced up. But, I mean, it's a fine spot for all these hitters, but not, on a 14-game slate, I like other spots a lot better. On the other side, you got...
Well, I was going
to
chime in while you're talking about the Pirates bats, and it is a spot that you're like, man, that's a very high run total. I agree with you. I don't think I've ever seen it this high. And the Pirates bats, they're projected for a team total of 4.91, which is the 6th highest on the entire slate. So Adam Frazier leading off or Gregory Polanco hitting cleanup both pique my interest. But like you said, I don't want to take Pirates bats in this park. It doesn't make sense, but they're middling priced. Now, tell me about Marlins bats, because I do have an incredible interest in two Marlins bats.
Yeah, versus Glasnow, you want guys that walk and guys that steal. So D. Gordon at the top of those lineups in a great spot today. Diaz, I actually did look him up, and he in the minors is known for his great ability to stop stolen bases, but that didn't show yesterday as Gordon did end up stealing a base. But it is something to be concerned about. Diaz is projected to be a very good catcher at preventing stolen bases, but still, you like guys that walk, and you got Kristen Yelich, another guy that, patient at the plate. He also is batting from the left side, which you like more versus Glasnow. Even Ozuna can, he's not necessarily the most patient there, but if he gets on base, he's probably looking to run too, especially versus Glasnow, who can't hold runners. Who are you looking at?
Well, I just like yesterday, I love D. Gordon. Today, it's no different. Even with Diaz, he could have the best candidate in the world, but Glasnow, his delivery and mechanics are so slow to the plate, and he's just not been someone that can hold base runners. That was his thing. He was a talented pitcher as a rookie, but if you got on base, you just ran on him regardless. And so D. Gordon stole a base yesterday. Today, if he gets on base, he's stealing. And the thing I like most about this matchup is Glasnow is walking 12.7% of left-handed bats. So if you walk D. Gordon, or he happens to slap a hit to get a single, he steals that base and he gets driven in, and you're crushing value. He's still too cheap on FanDuel at 3,100, and on DraftKings he actually went down 200. He's 4K today, so he's very much in play for me. I love D Gordon. If I can fit him in, I'm getting him in because I love targeting very high probability still positions. You mentioned Christian Yelich. I love Yelich. Anytime I can get a spot where he's got upside, he's got stolen base upside, and in this park and in this matchup, there's nothing to fear with Tyler Glasnow against left-handed batters. It's a spot you want to attack. And I think the run total is so high because the right-handed bats for the Marlins are one of the few that could actually hit it out of this park at a home run upside clip. Giancarlo Stanton and Marcell Ozuna both would make a nice little mini stack with D. Gordon and Christian Yelich if you chose to go that way. But you will definitely see D. Gordon in cash games.
Yeah, I agree. Especially in cash, D. Gordon's going to be super popular. Makes a great GPP play, too. Huge upside, especially, if he gets walked a couple of times and steals second and third. That right there is like a double homer night. So it is worth noting, though, Glasnow, they've been working on his mechanics, working on his pitch mix, and working on him getting more strikes. And in the last 30 days, he has shown improvements. His walk rate the last 30 is under 10%. 9.4, not something to be too proud of, but he is getting 66% first pitch strikes, which is a vast improvement over where he was earlier in the season. He's still giving up a ton of hard contact and not inducing much soft contact, but he is showing improvements. And I will say for GPPs on DraftKings, he's at 5.2K in a hitters friendly park. He does have massive strikeout upside when he is on. He is not the worst cheap play in GPPs as a SP2 on DraftKings.
It's a game that's very interesting. Like I said, that run total is amazingly high for PNC. Moving on to our next game, another very targetable game. We have the Texas Rangers and Andrew Kashner in Washington take on the Nationals and Tanner Roark. The Nationals are huge favorites, minus 170. Run total is 9. I have lots of interest in national bats, none of the pitching. Are you interested in any of the pitchers here?
For me, Kashner has been a guy I've targeted all season. The results haven't been great.
Against, right?
Yeah, targeted against. Yeah, sorry. No, I have not pitched Andrew Kashner. I've been stacking against him pretty much every start. The results haven't been great. He's somehow been able to escape. I see no reason why that's happened. I think most of it's just due to luck and a lot of balls hit at guys. And I'll be looking to target him again today. You love the left-hand bats, left-hand power bats versus Kashner. He's got a 6.43 xFIP on the season and only strikes left-hand bats out at 7.6%. So he's not striking anyone out.
7%.
Yeah,
and that's crazy.
Yeah, you have to love Bryce Harper. You have to love Daniel Murphy. Matt Wieters.
What are the chances we get Adam Lind in here today? Do you think? I know Zimmerman's going to be back. What are the chances is there any chance they could play Adam Lind?
I don't think so. There's just nowhere they can play him.
I give Zimmerman a second day off.
They could, but I mean, Kashner's just he's awful versus righties too, so I doubt it. If he had extreme split.
Let's talk about that for just a second. He gives a fly ball rate of 41% to left-handed bats while only striking out 7%. So you want to target the left-handed bats first, but the right-handed bats, the deal with that is it's only a fly ball rate of 9%. So he's a ground ball pitcher. He's getting ground balls to right-handed bats. So I'm still interested in guys like Trey Turner because he's walking 10% of right-handed bats. He's striking out 12% of right-handed bats. I just need Turner to get on. He's pretty expensive for not having really any home run upside in this spot, but would you play Trey Turner today?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. His price is up there, but there's nothing wrong with playing him. He's definitely in a great spot. He's Kashner ground ball pitcher, but he's not been getting an extreme ground ball rate. So a good spot for Trey to get the ball either on the ground or line drives. Kashner has the last 30 days he's not giving up a ton of hard contact. He's only at 31%. That's versus left and righties, and it's slightly better, or it might even be quite a bit better versus righties. So the home run upside for Trey Turner probably isn't there, but he doesn't need to homer. As we saw yesterday, he stole, 3 bases. So batting leadoff versus a pitcher that we think is terrible, a pitcher you should have no trouble. He won't be striking out versus, so you have to love Trey Turner.
Yeah, Nationals have a 4.91 run total, which is tied with the Pirates for 6th highest. It's a spot where in cash games, if I can afford Trey Turner, I love his safety just because the Nationals lineup usually turns over quite a bit. And if he gets on base, he is a guy that will steal second and third. He will try to steal every time. And if I compare him with a Bryce Harper or a Daniel Murphy in cash games, the only issue I'm running into is, do I have the money for it? But I have Bryce Harper as my top play overall on the day, personally. So if I can afford him, I'm getting him in.
Yeah.
What about Tanner Roark? Are you interested in Roark or any of these Rangers bats?
It's a sort of an interesting spot. Roark's a guy I basically never pitch, but we have kind of had some interest in this Rangers, targeting this Rangers lineup. But again, there's too many lefties in there for me. That kind of takes me off Roark right away. He's not, especially lately, he's not been getting a lot of first pitch strikes. His walk rate's been up a little more, but he is not allowing his hard contact, which is kind of the normal thing. But his strikeouts for me just are never there. And at 8.2K, even versus this Texas team that chases quite a bit, I just don't have any interest. It's worth noting, too, that, this Texas team does chase, but Roark does not. He has one of the lower swing percentages, so he's not getting people to swing at pitches outside of the zone, which if you're targeting Rangers bats, you want to target them against a pitcher that doesn't induce that high swings outside the zone. So I actually do have some interest in some of these Rangers bats. I think Chu's a decent play. He's got stolen base upside in this matchup. Roark, is average at holding runners, and, Waiters is not good at all defensively. So I like Chu at the top of this lineup. He's priced out 3.8K on DraftKings. Nomar makes a nice play. You always love grabbing lefties versus Roark, who's struggled, mightily versus lefties. He's got some pretty big reverse splits. It is worth Joey Gallo. It'll be interesting to see where he's batting the lineup today. He has the power. Roark, is giving up power to lefties, and he's not striking out lefties, only at 18%. So not nearly as bad as Cashner, but still not a rate you're very afraid of, and especially, he's not getting, again, I mentioned he's not getting people to swing at balls outside the zone, and, that is Joey Galloway's big struggle. So if you have a pitcher that's not inducing those swings, you love Gallo for his huge home run upside.
For cash games, there's no Rangers that are showing up. Sin Choo Choo in the outfield on DraftKings might make a few builds just because he's so cheap and leading off, but you don't have to worry about Rangers in cash games.
Yeah, and I actually kind of forgot one. Odor is priced at 2.9K in a great spot for him. Absolutely, this is a really good spot for him. Love him as a punt catcher on DraftKings. I will have a lot of Odor today.
Punt second baseman, you mean?
Yeah, I say catcher.
Yeah, that's interesting. I still don't think a whole lot of people are going to the Rangers today, just because there are some elite spots hitting that we're going to get to. Moving on, our next game, we have the Oakland Athletics and Andrew Triggs in Tampa Bay to take on the Rays and Alex Cobb. Tampa Bay is a minus 125 favorite. Run total is 8.5. We're in Tropicana. Two middling pitchers. I know Triggs has some very good momentum going for him in cash games as the SP2 on DraftKings because he's so cheap. Do you have interest in Andrew Triggs?
Yeah, this is a very interesting spot here for both pitchers. We're in Tropicana, Great Pitchers Park. You have Alex Cobb, who has struggled recently. In the middle of the season, he actually showed some of the upside that we've seen him probably back to 2015. He was one of the rising stars of pitching, was looking like he was going to break out and be, like a top 20, top 10 starter in the league. And, we've seen his ability. He can limit damage. He can show a lot of strikeouts. It hasn't been there in his last few starts, so, I'm nervous about that. If he was in better form, I would have a lot more interest versus what should be a pretty righty-heavy A's lineup. Cobb is much, much better versus right-hand bats. He has been his whole career. There is some interest for me in some of these lefties for the A's. Jed and Yonder are always decent plays versus a righty that struggles versus left-hand bats, which is what Cobb is. Also, Stephen Vogt down at catcher batting 7th or 8th today. is 2.6K on DraftKings, so he's an interesting punt. But again, you don't love grabbing hitters, especially on a big slate in Tropicana. On the other side, you have Andrew Triggs, who is definitely an interesting pitcher. He has a very tough to pick up wind-up and delivery, and I believe there's almost no one that has ever faced him before, and so that makes him definitely very interesting. It takes a while to adjust to that, and if you have a lineup, I think is it only Kobe Rasmus has ever seen him before, and so if you have a lineup that's not seen Triggs, that can lead to struggles, especially the first 1 or 2 times through the lineup, and at that 5.7K price tag, Triggs can flash strikeout upside. This could be a great spot in a pitching park. Triggs' numbers lately, have been pretty nothing special. Last 30, he's got a swing strike rate right around 10%, which is, pretty average. He's not getting many swings outside the zone, and he's not getting a whole lot of first pitch strikes, so definitely scary, but he's pretty priced.
Let me speak on why Triggs is gaining so much momentum throughout the course of the day. First of all, his DraftKings price is 5.7K, and that's just way too cheap for a guy that's competent in a pitcher's park. You mentioned he's got that unique delivery, and the Rays have only seen him once, and it was in a shortened stint. Evan Longoria has faced him once, Colby Rasmus faced him twice, and that's everyone else. It's just one time through that they've faced him. On top of that, the Rays, they put out a pretty, here's the lineup. Malik Smith hitting leadoff, Corey Dickerson, Evan Longoria, Logan Morrison, Souza, Rasmus. It's not a lineup that really, Triggs is a guy that's been inducing a lot of soft contact. And if you're getting soft contact at 5,700 against the Rays offense, it's just a spot that I don't like that he's an underdog, but at 5,700, if he can get me 5-6 innings and give up 1 or 2 runs with the strikeout here and there, I like the opportunity at 5.7K.
Yeah, and it's true. Another thing about Triggs, he is more of a fly ball pitcher, so you love that, getting a park upgrade. Well, it's pretty neutral for him, going from Oakland to Tampa, but obviously a great park for a fly ball pitcher to pitch in. And he has been limiting hard contact the last 30 days, only at 26.7%, which is a great number to see at 5.7K. So yeah, and when we've gone over this a lot, this Rays team can strike out a ton. I do wish that Norris was catching. Jesus is a much tougher strikeout target. Malik Smith has been terrible this year, hitting wise, but he's another guy that doesn't strike out very much. So those guys at 1 and 9, kind of cut down but you still have Rasmus, Beckham, Souza, Robertson are all huge strikeout targets versus righties. So you have 4 way above average strikeout targets.
Yeah, like I said, he'll be popular as an SB2 in cash games on DraftKings, and he's gaining momentum throughout the day. So be prepared to face Andrew Triggs in your cash games more than likely. Now, you mentioned, I just want to touch on one A's batter that's going to come up a lot in cash games, and it's only on FanDuel. Jed Lowry is still 2.3K on FanDuel at second base eligibility. They just don't bump him up. He's going to be hitting second or third. Have the platoon. He's on the away team, so he's guaranteed at bats. Cobb is allowing a 339 WOBA, a hard hit rate of 40%, fly ball rate of 34%, striking out only 16%, and walking 10% of left-handed bats. So at 2.3K, that gives you a lot of flexibility if you roster him in cash on FanDuel. So Jed Lowry will be a popular punt option on FanDuel second base. But that's it from this game. Triggs is catching my eye. I don't have any interest in Cobb. And Jed Lowry is the only bat that's really popping out.
Yeah, it's crazy that FanDuel doesn't price him up. I mean, he should be up at least in the low 3s.
Someday there's going to be a fascinating study, and they're going to release how they do their algorithms. This Jed Lowry thing, it's been like this all season. It doesn't make sense. He's had success. He's been decent.
With FanDuel, I don't know if it is an algorithm. I think it's just some person that randomly picks numbers, and sometimes they must just have people excluded from their spreadsheet. They just never see them, and so they never change their price, because there's just guys that hang around the same price for months.
Well, speaking of guys that are mispriced, or maybe priced according to their most recent form, but today they get a great spot. Our next game is the Detroit Tigers and Jordan Zimmerman in Boston take on the Red Sox and Brian Johnson. The Red Sox are minus 131 favorites. The run total is the highest of the day at 10.5 here in Fenway. The Red Sox have the highest implied team total at 5.43. Mookie Betts' price has come down again. I love Mookie Betts today, and I cannot see a cash game build without him pretty much on both sides. Talk to me about these spots for these Red Sox hitters.
Yeah, it does not make a lot of sense here. Like on DraftKings, basically the whole Red Sox team is priced down, and you like to target Zimmerman with everybody. I don't know how he's still a pitcher in this. I mean, I can't believe they're still writing him out. It's kind of like with them where they had Anibal Sanchez running him out over and over again last year, and then this year kept him around in the bullpen for absolutely no reason. I mean, just cut ties with this guy and get anybody. Sign someone in the independent leagues. I mean, this guy is terrible. He doesn't strike out anybody. He gives up tons of hard contact. Yeah. Gets hit from both sides.
I want to make sure that we hammer this home. Jordan Zimmerman this year to righties, it's a 372 WOBA, 9 home runs in 35 innings, hard hit 37%, fly ball 45%, strikes out 13%. To lefties, it's even worse. It's a 401 WOBA, 7 home runs in 26 innings, hard hit 42, fly ball 41, striking out 14. In cash games today, you're going to see all the Red Sox. They're just too cheap. Mookie Betts, Andrew Benintendi. Those guys in the outfield are just so cheap. And then you go to first base. I know he's your favorite player, Mitch Moreland. Tell me about Mitch Moreland. Do you have interest in GPP today? In cash game, he's so cheap. I got lots of interest in Mitch Moreland at first base.
Yeah, he's priced way down, and it's a great spot. I've been targeting Jordan Zimmerman every start. It is worth noting he has given up less hard contact in his recent starts, but still not getting any soft contact, not getting the ball on the ground, the ball's in the air. The weather in Fenway is looking great. It's going to be in the 70s with a 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing out, 50-60% humidity, pretty good hitting weather. Mitch Moreland has got to be a favorite to, if he doesn't homer, get, two doubles off Zimmerman. This Tigers bullpen is awful. I mean, this is just, if the Red Sox don't score 6 to 8 runs, you're going to be shocked, and you won't be surprised if they get 15.
Yeah, they're going to score runs. They're going to turn the lineup over, and you want a piece of that, or you just can't fade Red Sox today in cash games. It's just a bad game theory play because it's a pitcher that doesn't strike people out in a park that is going to be conducive to hitting for players that are priced just underpriced. Mookie Betts, again, he's 3.8K on FanDuel and 4.3K on DraftKings. He's got home run, multiple hit, stolen base, every kind of upside in this spot.
Yeah, and it's worth, he has been struggling, but I don't read anything into it. This is a guy that on DraftKings 2 or 3 weeks ago was 5.6K every day. Yep. So it's a crazy price. On the other side, Brian Johnson was a top prospect a few years ago, kind of had some injuries and had some struggles, kind of went and, dropped out the list. In AAA, he just kind of struggled with his command. He had 17 walks in 46 innings, and, he's a lefty. He was a bit worse versus right-hand bats, obviously, in AAA. In the majors, his last start, he looked brilliant, but we mentioned this good hitting weather. It's going to be a very difficult matchup for him. He's going to face a Tigers team that probably is going to throw out 9 right-handed batters versus him. I expect him to get hit pretty well, and I expect this Tigers team to perform, put up. They've been hot lately too. I'm expecting them to pile in the runs, which actually, makes it even more for the Red Sox because it's going to be a game where both teams are going to be scoring, and they're going to have to keep the pedal to the metal to keep up with each other. So a lot of interest in these Tigers bats.
And just to hammer that home, the Red Sox have the highest implied total of 5.43 runs. The Tigers have the 3rd highest projected total at 5.07 runs. So it's going to be a game that all indicators, everything I look at, is saying this is going to be lots of scoring, lots of batting opportunities. The thing with the Tigers is I just am not finding many of them as cash game playable. I like the James McCann is coming back today. He had a stint in AAA, so he's coming back off the DL, and his price is way down there. Do you have interest in James McCann today at catcher as his first game back?
Yep, yeah, I think that's a fine play. He's priced. He's at 3.1K on DraftKings. I'm guessing he's probably right around the minimum on FanDuel. Yeah, 2.5. Yeah, so definitely a great play. He's always been the guy that's hit lefties way better, especially for power wise. So he was always kind of a plug and play for me a lot of times last year when he was low priced versus lefties. And like we said, Johnson's a lefty that has struggles with righties. It is worth noting, Johnson, for what it's worth, had a very bad start his first time in the pros this year back in April. His last start, he actually ended up throwing a complete game shutout versus the Mariners. Especially against a team that's seeing him for the first time, and we have this Tigers team that against Sogard or whatever, Skogard or whatever, the pitcher, the rookie for the Royals, a lefty that I thought Skoglund, there it is, Skoglund. This Tigers team struggled mightily seeing him the first time, and that was another spot where I thought they would crush. So I am a little more hesitant on these Tiger bats. It's definitely not a lock, but I do think they should get to Johnson.
I'll tell you this much. In cash games today, the Red Sox are going to be all over the place. I don't think Tigers are going to be owned. They're just kind of at a weird spot. The only spot that I mentioned that was popping out for me was catcher, because at first base, Miguel Cabrera is a fine play, but his price is kind of in the middle to the upper tier where I don't want to go there because I want other bats in play. At third base, Nicholas Castellanos has been hitting second against a lefty, and he's a fine play, but there is a way underpriced third baseman on both sides that we're going to talk about later that is just so much better of a spot on paper. And in the outfield, the big guns of Justin Upton and JD Martinez, they are priced way up there, and I'm just not able to get them into any cash game build. So I don't think you'll see popular are you going to pay 3.8K on FanDuel for Justin Upton or Mookie Betts?
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, even on DraftKings, they're priced much higher than the Red Sox. So in GPPs, I would expect the Red Sox to be much higher owned too. So definitely makes that interesting.
Our very next game, the Chicago White Sox and Miguel Gonzalez in Cleveland to take on today's biggest favorite, Corey Kluber, minus 250. This is a massive, massive spot for Corey Kluber. The run total is 8.5. The only issue is all day long, people have been talking about the rain. Corey Kluber, is he on a pitch count? What will they do if this game has a mid-inning delay? Corey Kluber, he's the best pitcher on the slate by far. He's got the best matchup by far. What are you doing about this? Are you worried about the weather? Have you heard anything?
What'd you say? Did you hear something about a pitch count on Kluber?
Well, just from the talk, and I haven't read anything or heard anything from actual Indians officials or coaches, but I believe he only threw 79 pitches last game. Is that correct? It was something they pulled him. They pulled him. He was cruising, and they pulled him out.
Trying to think what was the score of that game. Now I got to spend 30 seconds just making sure, because this
look it up because it's important.
Go ahead.
I'll go over Kluber's. So Kluber on the season he's been dominant when he's been in there. He's got a 1.104 WHIP. He's striking out 10.090 batters per 9 innings. The White Sox against right-handed pitching have just been dreadful. Jake Odorizzi got the job done against them yesterday, and Kluber is a legitimate ace. The White Sox have the overall lowest projected team total at 3.39 runs. The first time that Kluber faced the White Sox this season, he pitched a complete game back on April 21st, struck out 9, allowed 3 hits, gave up 0 runs. So Kluber, if he is all systems go today, is your SP1 lock and load on both sides. Don't get cute. You play Kluber, you figure out the rest. Did you happen to find anything about Because I just remember they pulled him early.
Yeah. So I think, and here's what I think happened. He pitched 6 innings his last start, only had 77 pitches. It was his first start off the DL, his first start in a month. But the game was out of hand. It was a blowout. So I think they were just being cautious in that spot. I wouldn't think, I haven't seen anything. I'll keep my eye on the Indians beat writers, but I wouldn't think he is limited. But if the Indians get to Gonzalez, which they probably should, and the game's kind of out of hand, he might, get yanked in the 7th or the 8th inning and not get allowed to pitch his complete 9, which you normally would expect from a fully healthy Kluber. Long leash, he's allowed to pitch 110, 120 pitches. I'm guessing, they'll be more careful than normal, but I wouldn't think they're going to be super careful. I would expect him to get 100, 110 pitches unless it's a blowout or whatever. Like you said, the weather is a big concern. What I've seen so far, this is kind of something that we'll just have to monitor as we get close. It's tough to predict the weather, 4 or 5 hours out. And what I've seen, there's definitely delay chances. The game should end up playing, but there is risk of those storms causing a delay, which again, with Kluber, coming back from injury, in the past, I would say that they, if it wasn't too long of a delay, they'd let him keep pitching. But in this spot, they might, yank him and just go to their bullpen. That's, elite and can withstand pitching, 6-7 innings.
Yeah, and that's the thing is he is the most expensive by far on both sides. On FanDuel at 10.5, that's a silly price for this matchup, and you just lock and load him in. On DraftKings at 12.6, we need to make sure that he's gonna go because we don't want to pay that high up and then get burned by a guy that doesn't make it past 5 innings, whether it's weather related or pitch count or whatever it is. Again, these are just precautionary things we're throwing out. We don't have any definitive weather forecasts or pitch count reasoning, but we're just in case. You just need to be aware of these things before you just set it and forget it.
Yep, and yeah, it's a great matchup, perfect matchup. High strikeout upside. Kluber's one of the best pitchers in the league. It's not much else to say, but yeah, his price on FanDuel at 10.5K, high expensive price, but again, cheaper than what it should be.
He should be 12 in this spot at least.
Yeah,
but that's Clayton Kershaw level matchup.
Yeah, and on DraftKings 12.8K is a fair price. It's probably still a little too cheap. He probably should be touching 13, low 13s, but definitely a more accurate price. So it does bring it more interesting for the fade, especially in tournaments, because I am expecting, unless the weather is really shaky around lock, Kluber's going to be extremely popular in tournaments. They're just going to lock in that huge upside. So definitely an interesting spot and something that we have to watch for articles and updates. As we monitor if there's any news that he's either limited or that the weather is going to be worse than expected at this moment. But yeah, great spot for Kluber. What do you think about the Indians' bats?
I was going to say, let's take the Indians' bats are going to be a thing today, too. They have the second highest projected team total, 5.11 runs. And basically, anyone and everyone in this lineup is in play. Lefties are who I'm targeting first. Guys like Carlos Santana at first base. Jason Kipnis hitting leadoff at second base. Jose Ramirez is even in play for me at third base. Shortstop Francisco Lindor is the top target. In the outfield, Michael Brantley. I love his spot today. The actual numbers on Miguel Gonzalez in 2017, he's allowing a 377 WOBA with 6 home runs in 31 innings on a hard hit rate of 33%, fly ball rate of 39%, only striking out 14% of left-handed bats. This is an Indians team that has been much better at home this season with their offense. This is just a spot where they should just turn the lineup over multiple times and just get to Gonzalez and that White Sox bullpen.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, and the White Sox bullpen, not something to be afraid of besides the back end of it. So if this game,
you're getting the bad ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Projects the way it's supposed to.
You're getting Anthony Swarzak, who has pitched well this year, but doesn't profile for me as being someone to worry about. You love all these Indians bats. And it's worth noting Gonzalez is, he had some good starts at the beginning of the year, but his latest starts, he's getting hit super, super hard, almost 50% hard contact allowed. Just a guy that's getting crushed. And the Indians, they've been way better at home for the last 2 years. So you got to love all these spots, both sides of the plate.
And the thing about the Indians, the thing about the Indians that you love the most too is all those guys I mentioned All of them can hit a home run. They can steal a base. Basically, the Jason Kipnises, the Francisco Lindors, Jose Ramirez, all those guys are the triple threat today.
Yeah.
Home run, stolen base, multiple hits.
Yeah. Yeah, another great spot for hitters.
Our next game, speaking of great spot for hitters, this is an intriguing one. New York Mets and Matt Harvey in Atlanta to take on the Braves and Julio Teheran. The Mets are minus 101 favorites, the smallest favorite you'll ever see. The run total is 9.5. We're in SunTrust. Any interest in Matt Harvey or Julio Teheran?
No interest in any of the pitching. Great spot for the hitting here, too. You have Julio Teheran, who's struggled versus lefties his whole career and has even struggled mightily. I mean, just way worse this year. I mean, he can't get lefties out.
It's worse this year.
Yeah, he can't get lefties out at all this year. He's given up tons of power to him. You're in a park that rewards left-hand power.
This Mets a team full of lefties.
Yeah, it's all lefties. They should be hitting the ball hard. They should be hitting it a lot and deep. And I mean, they should be. It's just another awesome spot for hitting. This Mets team should score a ton of runs here. And the crazy thing about Teheran is, even when he's giving up 6-7 runs, the Braves let him keep pitching. They're not going to yank him soon and make it a bullpen game. I mean, he can give up 8-9 runs and they still let him out for 4 or 5 innings. The poor guy, I feel bad for the guy sometimes, especially in a matchup like this. It's kind of one of those days he should just fake an illness.
Yeah, I don't have any idea how he's going to have any success against this lineup. This is the one lineup that loads 5 lefties up in the top half of their order that are all their best hitters. Michael Conforto leading off. Neil Walker, he was day-to-day. If he plays hitting cleanup at second base. You got Asdrubal Cabrera hitting second at shortstop. And then the big guns in the outfield, Michael Conforto hitting leadoff and Jay Bruce hitting third. Teheran this season is allowing a 391 WOBA with 9 home runs in 34 innings, hard hit rate 37, fly ball 44%. But here's the thing that is, again, I mentioned this yesterday, and I'm going to keep hammering it home for cash games. You target pitchers that put people on base with a low strikeout rate. He strikes out 13% of left-handed bats, and he walks 14%. He has 24 walks in 34 innings to left-handed bats this season. That's just, there's no recipe or way that he gets around this left-handed heavy lineup. It's just, they're going to crush him in this park.
Yeah, he gets a lot of fly balls, hard contact to lefties. It's just, it's terrible. Like, I was serious. He should probably fake an illness and just be like, can't pitch.
I mean, I could see in the first inning him giving up a home run, a walk, a double, a home run. I could just see him getting chased in 2 innings here. There's just no, because they're going to have those guys I just mentioned 1 through 5, and then probably Curtis Granderson hitting 6 or 7. That is 7 capable lefties in a lefty hitter's park. It's just, the more I talk about it, I think I'm even higher on these guys than I was on Bryce Harper now. I had Bryce Harper as my top play overall, but I don't know how Conforto doesn't just go off here.
Yeah, I mean, it should. Crazy spot, crazy good spot. Another, I hate slates like this where there's, 10 spots that could all score 10, 20 runs. I mean, it's tough to figure out which spot is going to be the best. The Mets should score a ton. On the other side, the Braves lineup, Harvey, to me, hasn't really shown anything at all. I like this whole Braves team to score runs versus him. Slightly prefer the left-hand bats, but I'm fine with Matt Kemp. I think it's a great spot for him.
He's underpriced.
Yeah.
He's underpriced, so he'll be popular in cash games. What do you make of the Mets? The run totals here are pretty modest for 2 pitchers that have gotten just beat up this year. It's 4.76 for the Mets and 4.74 for the Braves. I would bet the over on both of those.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they can't. It's especially, there is, when lines are set, there's obviously some public perception, and I would assume still a lot of the public thinks Atlanta is a good pitching park. So, if you throw out I think the over-under is at 9.5. If you throw out an 11 that maybe it should be, you're just going to get piled on the under, and I just don't, maybe the books don't want to take that kind of risk of something crazy happening and them taking a huge loss when it goes under. That's be my only thought. But yeah, I think the over-under, probably should be 10.5. It should be one of the bigger ones you'd see all year. The weather It's going to be in the 80s, 56% humidity, no wind to speak of. And this is a park we've seen give up tons of runs. So, yeah, it should be a high-scoring game.
Well, let me ask you this. For cash games, you're going to see Lucas Duda and Matt Adams, very popular. Adams has that outfield eligibility on DraftKings as well. But at first base, between Lucas Duda and Matt Adams, Matt Harvey against left-handed batters this year is allowing a 358 WOBA, fly ball rate of 41%, striking out 15. Where would you go between Matt Adams and Lucas Duda, both hitting fifth? Do you have a preference in a spot like this? I know for cash games, I think I'm leaning Duda because he's the away team, so he's guaranteed at bats.
Yeah, I like Duda. I think it's a better matchup for Duda. I think there's much higher chance that Harvey throws a decent game than Julio. I think Julio has no shot to be able to survive this lineup. So
I'll tell you this. If Neil Walker is out of this lineup and Duda gets moved up to the cleanup spot and Curtis Granderson gets moved up to hitting fifth, that is going to be a super good play in cash games at very cheap prices.
Yeah, it's worth
noting. Be aware of that lineup when it comes out.
Something I just noticed is that Harvey's actually done really. He's induced 26% soft contact versus left-hand bats. I had not realized that.
Yeah, see, Harvey's been a weird pitcher to figure out this year. He's had some pretty cake matchups where he's gotten kind of beat up.
Yeah, and nothing I've seen from him says that he's anywhere near what he used to be. Now he looks like a pretty bad pitcher, but that's on the 2017 season. 26% soft contact to lefties, and his xFIP to lefties is almost 6. So definitely wasn't something I expected to see at all.
So again, just to sum up, the long way around this is we both love hitters in this spot. In cash games, you're going to see them all over the place, and I suspect the Mets are going to be a very, very popular play in both cash and GPP today. Our next game, we have the Baltimore Orioles and Dylan Bundy in New York to take on the Yankees and Jordan Montgomery. The Yankees are minus 135 favorites. The run total is 9. Again, Yankee Stadium's a dangerous park. But the Orioles are pretty beat up, and they're going to throw a lineup out that strikes out a lot. I've got a lot of interest in Jordan Montgomery. How about you?
Yeah, Jordan Montgomery is going to be one of my favorite pitchers on the slate. This Orioles team has struggled mightily versus left-hand pitching, especially left-handers that can strike people out. Montgomery, he's had an up-and-down season kind of, but he's still, for me, everything I've seen from him, I think he's going to be a future ace. He's going to be one of the best pitchers you can see in the league in the next couple of years. And so I love targeting him in this matchup. It is a scary stadium. Yeah, the Orioles team can get to anyone, and they can also pile on runs. So it is, it's risky, but I think he's not going to carry much ownership at all on especially not on FanDuel. But I don't think there's a lot of guys around his price range that people are going to go to in GPPs. So I'm expecting him to be 10% or less in GPPs, and I think he has. Him and Kluber have the highest upside in the slate. I mean, I can see Montgomery pitching 7-8 innings here and getting 8-9 Ks and allowing a run or even less. I love the spot for him. He's by far one of my favorite pitchers on the slate. There's nothing. He's got one of the highest O swing percentages on the slate. He's almost in the last 3 days. His O swing is 39%, which not super high, but that's something you really want to see, especially versus an Orioles team that's going to chase. And like you said, Manny's going to be out of the lineup today. I believe that's already come out.
It should be noted. It should be noted this is the third time that he's faced Baltimore. The first matchup, he struck out 7. He gave up 3 earned runs. He went 5 innings. The most recent, on the 29th of May, he only lasted 4.1 innings. He gave up 8 hits. He struck out 5. And he only allowed 1 earned run.
Yeah, so that is a little worrisome. But it's not usually something I put a whole lot of weight into. But yeah, when he's faced them, 10 days ago, that scares me some, just because you don't want hitters to be familiar with a pitcher. But luckily, it should kind of be more of a watered down lineup. And it's actually a thing. Once the lineup comes out, I'll probably pull up that box score from that last start and just see who got to him and who's if they're in the lineup today and what's going on. Just because I do plan to have a lot of exposure to him, so it's kind of definitely a thing where I want to make sure I check all the boxes and I'm not overexposed to a bad game, but still, he's going to be my price per dollar right now. He is my favorite pitcher. We'll have to see what the lineup brings. On the other side, Bundy. I mean, I thought for sure he was going to go on the DL. I mean, he just lost. Everything was down for a while. Actually, I don't know his last couple of starts because he's a guy I admittedly have just expected him to be hurt, so I haven't been paying a lot of attention to him. And I think he's done fairly well. He's still allowing quite a bit of hard contact. I mean, I have no interest in pitching him. I'm just kind of gonna have to dig a little deeper yet to see how much interest I do have in these hot Yankees bats who destroyed Price last night. Who I had a ton of David Price. What are you thinking on these Yankees bats?
Only one is popping out, and they're not going to be very popular today just based on there's just prices and matchups that fit better. But Brett Gardner has just been a guy that he's shown pop this year, and he's hitting leadoff for this offense. Bundy, there's nothing that really jumps out on paper except for he's allowed a hard hit rate of 36%, and the fly ball rate is 45%, while only striking out 13% of left-handed bats. And Gardner's a guy that doesn't strike out anyway, so he's going to put the ball into play. If you want a piece of this Yankees offense, he's the way to go. And of course, Gary Sanchez, even though he got bumped down in order and he's priced up, will be popular still in cash games because people want that catcher that can hit.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth noting. Yeah, Bundy's 13% versus lefties K rate and a 21 versus righties. He's been much better versus righties, but yeah, his K rate. Everything's, I was high on him coming in this year. I thought he was going to be really, really good. But his velocity's been down. His swinging strike rate's been way down. His actual strikeouts have been way down. So he's definitely a curious case. And like I said, the velocity is usually a big signifier that someone's hurt. So I had expected, in April, May that he was going to be on a lengthy DL and maybe, have some surgery or something. But he must be fine because they keep rolling him out. But he has been getting up a lot of hard contact, and like you mentioned, I agree with you there. Gardner, definitely my favorite. Definitely want to attack him from the left side, especially he doesn't strike anyone out. And Gardner has been part of that launch angle revolution, like Yonder Alonso, Kevin Pillar, guys that have all of a sudden shown massive home run upside just because they are swinging, differently and looking to get the ball in the air.
Yeah, and last note on this game, the Baltimore Orioles, anytime they face a lefty, Joey Ricard hits leadoff, and he's always super popular in cash games for whatever reason because he's always dirt cheap, and people, I don't know. I don't think he's that great of a Major League Baseball player, so I very rarely roster him unless I super need cash savings, but just be aware, Joey Ricard, if you see him when you open up a head-to-head, don't be afraid. He'll occasionally pop one out, but more often than not, he strikes out. The next game, we have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in Houston to take on Brad Peacock. Matt Shoemaker versus Brad Peacock is our matchup. Houston is a minus 170 favorite. The run total is 8.5. How about this spot?
Yeah, this is definitely a very interesting game. Peacock at 7.9K on DraftKings. I'm expecting him to be very, very, very high owned. I would assume 40, 50% in GPPs. And for me, right now I have no interest in him at all. And here's the reasons why I think it's a fade. Not only because of the super high ownership. He is in Houston, a hitter's park. He's versus an Angels team that's getting a decent park upgrade. There's obviously no Mike Trout, which is a huge upgrade for Peacock. But this team still doesn't have that. They're not striking out. They're hitting the ball decent. There's only on this entire lineup right now. There's only two big strikeout candidates that should be in the lineup today, in Valbuena and Espinoza, and one of those might not even be in the lineup. It's also going to be a lefty-heavy lineup. The two highest strikeout guys, Valbuena and Espinoza, both are going to bat from the left side, so they're going to have a platoon advantage versus Peacock. And also, so far this year, his K rates are pretty similar. I mean, they're just ridiculous. It's 36 this year. It's literally he has a 36% K rate versus lefties and a 39% versus righties. But when I look at everything else, I can't explain it. The last 30 days, which covers basically his whole time as a starter, it's great. ERA is obviously great. His xFIP is 2.2, which is super super elite. His SIERA is 2.5. Everything looks great, but when you look, like, he's only getting 11.7 swinging strike rate. He's only getting a 27.6 swing percent. He's getting a lot of first pitch strikes, but he doesn't. To me, he's not getting a lot of swinging strikes for a guy. 11.7 is definitely a decent swinging strike rate, but to match his strikeout totals, it doesn't really jive. And 27.6, I mean, that's at average swing percent. So he's not really getting people to chase. And he is walking guys. He has shown the ability to blow up. He has a lot of guys on base, and he's gotten lucky to hold those guys. And he's also given up a high hard contact rate. And he's so far been kind of a 50-50 ground ball fly ball rate. And so I'm not just looking at those stats. At 8K, if he was still down in the 5Ks, it'd be a tough fade. But at 8K, and especially a guy that's going to be super popular, I right now just have no interest. I think there's a good chance that he, one, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts today, and two, that he struggles mightily. And this Astros team has arms just ready in that bullpen. Davinsky hasn't pitched in a while. They called up their top prospect. I can't remember his name offhand. His top starting pitching prospect. He's ready available in the bullpen. They have multiple guys, and they have Feliz, I don't think, pitched yesterday. Feliz can pitch 2 innings. Davinsky can pitch 4 innings. The prospect, the starter, he can pitch 5 innings. And they haven't shown they've shown a willingness to yank their starting pitchers if they're struggling. So Peacock's not going to have a long leash. And it also brings me to another thing, is that, he has been a bullpen guy. He's transitioned into a starter. He is basically fully stretched out tonight. I've seen reports that he won't be on a pitch count. But at the same point, I'm worried about him getting tired. He's not used to this normal regiment, in my opinion. I know he was a starter that moved to a reliever and is back to be a starter. But still, this is a lot more innings, a lot more work on his arm. And I think you could definitely see a situation where he comes out and just has a dead arm, and his velocity could be, this is getting a little out there, but I could definitely see his velocity being down today, which makes even more that he gets blown up. So I think I'm going to have 100% fade on Peacock. I think I have 10 lineups on DraftKings. I maybe will put one of them on there just because he's going to be so high owned, and if he has a massive game, I at least want to have a miracle that I can hit something on that lineup. But I think I might do a full fade and not have him on any of my lineups. What are you thinking?
Well, let me make this clear. Bluff just gave you the inside mindset of a GPP player. For me, as a cash game with Brad Peacock, you don't get Q, you play him as the blocker. He's going to be so popular on DraftKings as the paired up guy with Corey Kluber. His price is 7.9K over there. He's the 5th biggest favorite of the slate. The Angels have the 3rd lowest projected team total. And even though they don't strike out that much, Peacock, his game logs, the strikeouts are going to be there for people when they look at it. And you just don't get Q, and you play him, and you block, and you win in the other positions. It's not something that I recommend it's Kluber and Peacock today. That's the build for DraftKings. Now, on FanDuel is 7K, and if people fade Kluber to play Peacock in cash games, that's a bad move. That's a very bad cash game theory. You hope your opponents do that. So I don't think you'll see him at all from sharp players on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and ride or die with this spot against an Angels team that the public is going to perceive as basically not a threat to Peacock, with this Astros offense backing him for the potential win and smooth sailing of a 5-6 inning game. So for me, I'll probably have 100% Peacock. I mean, there's just no way to get out of it in cash games without getting too cute, because for the options are Peacock or Triggs, really, or Jordan Montgomery, and it's just Peacock is just so much safer perceived.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. He's definitely very popular in cash. Definitely makes a very difficult fade in cash, just because he has shown that ability to put up 30-point DraftKings days, and if he does that in cash and you don't have him, you're going to be in a tough shape.
If you play Jordan Montgomery over Peacock as your SP2, and Montgomery gets tagged up, or even just only has a game where it's just average, and Peacock happens to get 7 or 8 strikeouts with 5 scoreless, you're basically drawing dead. So just be prepared. It's Peacock as your SP2.
And I'm going to say this too. Another thing I want to touch on. One of my, Cole Calhoun has come alive. He was awful for the first, almost 2 months of the season. He has come alive. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting it in the air. Peacock is giving up fly balls. He's giving up a 37% hard contact rate. Cole Calhoun is 4,000 in the outfield, price out basically 1,000 more than he has been on DraftKings. No one's going to play Cole Calhoun. Everyone's playing Brad Peacock.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a ton of Cole Calhoun. I want 2 homers out of him. I hope he shits me a GPP tonight, and I can buy his jersey in the morning. I'm a big on Cole Calhoun, too, as a leverage play against the Peacock, with the Peacock fade.
All right, Bluff, we need to pick this up a little bit. We still got a few games going here. We're pretty long. But just the Astros side of things, you do not normally want to target Matt Shoemaker. I mean, he's just a fine pitcher. There's nothing that stands out from him. The only Josh Reddick is cheap on DraftKings. He's still priced down in the mid, I believe it's 3.8K. You'll see some Josh Reddick, but the rest of the Astros are so priced up in the upper echelon that you won't play. You won't see Astros hardly in cash or GPP, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed. They do make they are somewhat interesting GPPs just because they're going to be solo owned. But for me, Shoemaker's not a guy I want to target, especially on this slate where we've talked about all these great hitting spots. The Astros are priced way up. I have no interest in actual hitters.
Yep. Okay, next game. Philadelphia Phillies and Jeremy Hellickson in St. Louis take on the Cardinals and Michael Wacha. The Cardinals are huge favorites, minus 170. The run total is 9. I don't have faith in Michael Wacha, and I think he's a terrible play today, even against this terrible Phillies offense, just because nothing from Wacha has shown me he's going to pitch deep. How about you?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I mean, you would have liked him more when the Phillies were running on a more right-hand heavy lineup, but it's probably going to be 4-4, and then the pitcher spot, or even 5-3 with 5 lefties. If it ends up being a surprisingly right-hand lineup, I don't mind going there in St. Louis, but it is good hitting weather there today. The wind's blowing out, it's warm. No interest in Hellickson. And again, there's so many great hitting spots. Hellickson's not a guy I ever pitch, but not a guy I usually target. So I'm not really big in these Cardinals hitters. The Phillies, nothing. I don't want any of these hitters either. So
for me, it's Odubel Herrera, just because he's been popular. He's hitting second.
Yeah, if I want any Phillies, it's the lefties.
Yeah, but I don't want to target Wacha because he's only allowing a hard hit rate of 28% to lefties, and that's nothing.
Yeah, both these pitchers are guys I rarely pitch and also rarely target hitters against.
Yeah, there's just better spots today. I mean, plain and simple. Our next game, speaking of much better spots, this is the Milwaukee Brewers and Zach Davies in Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks and Randall Delgado. The Diamondbacks are minus 130 favorites. The run total is 9.5. We are in the best hitting park on paper for this slate. How are you approaching?
I have a lot of interest in Randall Delgado at 5.4K on DraftKings. Obviously,
why is he so cheap?
Yeah, well, it's because he's still kind of not. He's getting the reliever price. He's fully stretched out. He should be allowed to pitch, 100 plus pitches as far as everything I'm seeing. He's not been allowing any hard contact. He's been inducing a ton of soft contact. He has a 14% swing strike rate as a starter. He's got a 37-0 swing. He's getting people to chase. This Brewers team strikes out. They love to chase. He's not walking anybody. He's not giving, he's so far, a lot of that's probably luck, but he's got a super low homer and a fly ball rate. I wouldn't read a lot into that. But yeah, I think it's a great spot. It'll be interesting to see what the lineup is. I want, obviously, more righties versus him, but he's got, doesn't have extreme splits at all. But definitely it's going to be a lineup that as soon as it comes out, I'm going to be analyzing it in my model for what I think the K projection is going to be, and he's going to be a guy I'm going to have a lot of interest in. On the other side,
hold on, I want to spend a minute just on this real fast because Eric Thames on FanDuel, he's showing up in every projection model, and everybody is touting him as this great play today, hitting second. It's a great park, but it's really not that crazy of a park shift coming from Milwaukee. I'm not seeing it. Are you seeing Eric Thames as a very... I don't see it, but he's 3K on FanDuel, which is kind of a silly price, but I like Randall Delgado as a pitcher, but
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. How are you approaching this?
He has slight splits versus lefties. He's a little worse versus lefties, but yeah, it's nothing extreme. I don't think it's I don't think it's a bad spot for fans, but it's not an elite spot. And there's a lot of other places I'd rather go to.
I think you're going to see Thames in a ton of cash games, and I think I'm on the fade. I think I'd rather play Lucas Duda at the exact same price of 3K, but you're going to see Thames all over the place today. So I just want to make people aware that Delgado is he's not bad. He's not a guy that I'm actively looking to target.
There is some concern. I'm going to have to look into this one. But I think the pitch mix is good for because he relies on getting swing. He relies on getting swinging strikes on his four-seam fastball. It has rising action, and it's got above average velocity. When he was a reliever, he'd throw it almost 100, but now he's a starter. He obviously turns that down so he can go. And then he has the changeup with good backspin. I'm reading this off Brooks Baseball too. It's not like this is coming out of my head. I just kind of pulled up his thing. And he has a nice slider, so I wonder I'd have to look up how Thames, because a guy that relies on his four seamer kind of scares me with Thames, who even before he went to Korea couldn't hit I hate to keep going on this, but before he left MLB to go to Korea, the reason why he couldn't make it in MLB is he couldn't hit off speed pitches and he just crushed fastballs for homers. He went to Korea.
Maybe that's why
he went to Korea, and the big story was that they throw tons of junk balls in Korea. And that really helped him because that's all he saw, and that's why he's been successful so far. But he's obviously dropped down quite a bit from his super hot start. But it's something I'll cover in my article. But I'm gonna have to dig in to see how he is versus certain pitches.
Maybe that's why he's showing up everywhere today, and people are so hyped about him. Because on paper, I just wasn't seeing it. But maybe it's the fastball and slide. Okay,
but that makes sense. Delgado's fastball, like I said, it has that rising action. It's not normal. He can gear it up when he needs to. And in a lineup like this, I think he comes at Thames and tries to throw it 99, 100 miles an hour versus him, just because he knows that's the one guy that can really hurt him. So I don't have a ton of interest in him, but again, I don't fault him for playing him.
Now let's talk about Diamondbacks. Anytime Diamondbacks are at home, expect to see Jake Lamb at third base. I'm sure you have interest in him today.
Yeah, I mean Davies is kind of a tough guy to figure out, but not a very great pitcher. He's not getting everything versus lefty. You want to target lefties versus them. There's nothing that I've seen as lefty stats that would bring a fade in mind. So yeah, Lamb's gonna be very popular. Great play. I don't mind Goldschmidt.
He's only striking out 16% of lefties.
Yeah, so. And he's not getting
Gregor Blanco, David.
Yeah, you hate Lamb versus ground ball pitchers. He struggles with ground ball pitchers, and he's getting 47% ground ball rates from what I'm seeing versus lefties. So nothing to be afraid of. So great spot for Lamb. Great spot for Peralta, who should be batting 2 or maybe even leading off and can steal here.
Second.
And
whoever they lead off with, whether it's Gregor Blanco, who's got outfield, or Daniel Descalso at second base eligibility, if whoever's leading off is going to have a great spot and hitting in front of Peralta, Goldschmidt, and Lamb, you can just plug that guy in cash games, and you probably will see him all over the place. But the only issue with Jake Lamb today is he's hard to afford. But if you can play Jake Lamb at third base, if you can pay up for him, at home, Jake Lamb versus a righty, it's a lock and load. That's pretty much it. Anything else you wanted to cover there? I mean, Paul Goldschmidt is obviously a great play if you can afford him, but I don't see how you get him today. He's just too expensive.
Yeah, I would just say, Diamondbacks make for definitely an interesting stack here. Davies, he every now and then he throws a good start, but he struggles. When he struggles, it's usually pretty big. And this Diamondbacks team can get guys on, and they're going to be looking to steal. I like I like the lefties more, but I don't mind the whole lineup. It'll be interesting to see who catches. If it's Herman, that makes for a nice catching play. But yeah, even
I believe he's still hurt.
Oh, is he? I guess I didn't know that. So
if he plays, he's a great play, especially if they bat him in that 5 or 6 spot that they have been.
Yeah. So I rarely say this, but Blanco makes a fine play. Owens, Drury. I think there's gonna be some runs scored by the Diamondbacks team.
Yeah, I mean, it's Diamondbacks at home. You're gonna see them. They're popular. They're great plays. Our next game is the Cincinnati Reds and Amir Garrett in Los Angeles take on the Dodgers and Rich Hill. The Dodgers are minus 190 favorites, 8.5 total. People are all over Rich Hill today. I'm not sold. How about you?
People are going to play Rich Hill?
Yeah, he is showing up. People love Rich Hill for whatever reason. I don't get it either. He's the second biggest. He's the second biggest favorite of the slate, and I think people are buying into that.
He's the biggest. The favorite makes sense. Amir Garrett's been terrible. The Dodgers should hit him well.
You're going to see a lot of Rich Hill. You'll be shocked at how much Rich Hill you see.
I can't believe
even though he's got that high Sierra of 5.27, even though he's walking 15% of batters, you're going to see. I wouldn't be shocked to see him a lot in cash games for SP2s on DraftKings. People. They see Dodgers, they see huge favorite, they see a lefty, they like it.
My mention, I have a lot to talk about Rich Hill, but I'll try to make it brief here just because we're running a bit over time. But I was going to mention my conclusion was going to be I hate him, but no one's going to be crazy enough to play him today, and he could make for an okay GPP. Shocked. But there's actually a great article in Fangraphs about him. They don't know for sure what's causing it, if it's the blister issues, if it's whatever, but he's basically he's almost like a knuckleball pitcher in that he relies on one pitch, an off-speed pitch, his curveball. If that curveball's not working, he's terrible. And lately, this whole entire season, he cannot get the same spin rate on that curveball anymore. And they think, he's had all these blister issues and all this other. He looks like he's done. He's basically done. He's very, very hittable. He has that ridiculous upside. If some reason, somehow, some miracle, he finds his curveball today and is able to throw it again. And, maybe they've been working with him because I thought for sure they're going to demote him to the bullpen, and they ended up devoting Kenta Maeda to the bullpen. But everything I'll maybe tweet out that link to this article, but everything it says is that he's completely, gone. He might not be with the team to end the season or be in the bullpen. Again, due to the Dodgers, like I said, they have Kenta Maeda in the bullpen now too, and this is a righty-heavy Cincinnati team. So I'm thinking Rich Hill more than likely pitches 3 or 4 innings, and then they're going to bring Kenta Maeda in to pitch the 5th and the 6th, and then they're going to give it to that bullpen that's elite. So I think Rich Hill's going to struggle. I don't think he's going to do a whole lot. But I don't have any interest in this Reds offense just because they're only going to get to see Rich Hill once or twice, and it's going to go to that great bullpen that's got Kenta Maeda there, who is very tough against righties, and you're going to see a ton of righties in this lineup versus Rich Hill. So it's going to be a nice 1-2 punch. I think that's kind of maybe what the Dodgers are planning. That's kind of maybe why they left Rich Hill in the starting rotation, is that they can let Rich Hill pitch one time through and then go to Kenta Maeda. So I would bet a lot of money. I'd maybe ask for like 2-1 odds, but I would bet a lot of money Rich Hill doesn't pitch 5 innings today.
I agree with you, and I have no interest in Rich Hill, but he's going to be popular from what I've picked up just from people I talk to, the places I research. They've talked up Rich Hill, and I don't get it. But
yeah, that shocked me. I figured that he would be just normal people just X him out. I mean, everything about him lately has not looked good, especially not pitching deep. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
Well, the Reds have the second lowest projected team total, 3.73 runs, and that's another thing that people pop off. They see that on DraftKings and they like it, and he's only 8,100. You're going to be surprised.
I hope so.
Let's talk about the other side, though. I've got a ton of interest in these Dodger right-hand bats against Amir Garrett. This is a spot where they might go lower only, you think, against because a lefty against the Dodgers is usually a fade, but this pitcher is so bad. He's allowed a 377 WOBA with 11 home runs in 39 innings, hard hit rate of 39%, fly ball rate of 40%, striking out only 15%, walking 11%. That's a 2.50 home run to right-handed bats. And you've got some guys in here that are very interesting and cash-friendly. Specifically at catcher, Austin Barnes is the minimum on FanDuel, and he's cheap on DraftKings. If he's hitting 6th or 7th like they usually do, he's a fantastic cash game play. And then the most popular third baseman, and I think if I can't afford Jake Lamb, this is the guy I was referencing earlier, Logan Forsythe hitting leadoff against the lefty. I just love this spot for him. Have you seen his price today?
Yeah, he's down. I have interest in Forsythe. Amir's been terrible. Another guy that I'm surprised they're still throwing him out there. But yeah, my favorite would be Chris Taylor. Should be batting 3 today, hitting the ball super hard. Just a great spot for him to hit a couple of homers. I mean, legitimately could hit a couple of homers tonight, and I would be shocked if he didn't get at least a double off of Mir. Maybe he might only see him a couple times though.
Yeah, the only thing I caution you on Chris Taylor is he might not make the lineup because Justin Turner's supposed to be back tonight.
Oh.
So if he's back, I don't know if they shift Taylor to a different position. Just pay attention to that Dodgers lineup.
Yeah,
any of the right-hand bats tonight are going to be in play because Garrett's a guy that gives up the home run. And even in this Dodger Stadium, this is a high-event upside situation where you want Dodgers.
Yeah.
They've got a run projected total of 4.77. It's a good spot. So whatever right-handed bats you see, be prepared to face them in cash games.
It is, yeah. And I'm guessing if Turner's back, Taylor will still make the lineup. He'll play on the outfield. I don't think there's any way they don't get Taylor in the lineup, especially Dave Roberts is big on splits and in on advanced stats, and Taylor's been crushing the ball, especially versus lefties. There's no way he's not getting Taylor in the lineup.
He's got 391 WOBA on 228 ISO against left-handed pitching. That is elite.
Yeah, so it's worth noting, though, that, Amir, we're not anticipating to pitch long. This Reds bullpen's been very good. It does not, obviously not, almost no one's bullpen is good when your starting pitcher only goes 2 or 3 innings, though. But it is worth noting that, you probably won't see Amir more than once or twice through the lineup. And, so especially today where there's so many great hitting spots, definitely a downgrade. But yeah, I love all these power righties.
All right, 3 games left. Our next game, we have the Kansas City Royals and Eric Skoglund at the Padres to take on Jhoulys Chacin. The Padres are minus 115 favorites. The run total is 8. I'll make this simple from a cash game perspective. The only guy in this entire game that's interesting is Mike Moustakas and Will Myers, just because they are priced down, and Chacin gets beat up by lefties, and Skoglund, he doesn't have a very big sample size here, but Will Myers is only 3.7K on DraftKings. Do you have any interest in 1, the pitchers, 2, any of these hitters?
Yeah, this is, I know we're already on super time, but I think this is worth talking about. This is a very interesting spot. I think Skoglund will get some ownership tonight, and it is a tough thing to figure out. In the minors, he was he had a lot of strikeout upside, especially versus left-handers. It wasn't, terrible. He was, almost a K per inning versus right-hand pitching, but still he was very bad versus right-hand hitters. I mean, they're hitting him hard, but the problem is you get this Padres lineup that strikes out versus lefties and righties, and I mean, there is a lot of strikeout upside, especially when he's going to San Diego. He's going to get to face a pitcher. But still, I'm leaning that the Padres are going to get to him here. I think the righties are going to be able to hit him. Like you said, I like Will Myers, I like Hunter Renfroe, I like Austin Hedges. I think this is a type of pitcher that's going to give a lot of power to right-hand bats. And you know what? The Padres, that stadium isn't awful for right-hand power. It's right around average, if not even a little bit above average for right-hand power. So, I mean, there's no problem, especially guys like Myers and Renfroe that can hit the ball a mile. So I like them for, good homer upside. But Skoglund definitely could pitch a great game here and rack up a lot of Ks just because that's how bad the Padres lineup is and that's how much upside they offer versus Ks. It's definitely going to be a lineup. Go for it.
Yeah, and it's the first time these guys have ever seen him, so just be aware that's either a boom situation or a bust situation.
Yeah, and we saw that. We saw when he faced the Tigers, Skoglund. I was expecting him to get crushed just because I saw his righty numbers in the minors, and he completely shut them down. And then the next start, he was against the Indians, who are again another righty level, and he only made it, I think, 1 or 2 innings and just got the ball sprayed all over the park. So it's an interesting situation. On the other side, Chacin. Another interesting spot here at home versus a Royals team that's not going to throw many lefties you're scared of. They're going to have Moose and Haas. Moose you're definitely scared of, especially against Chacin. I agree with you. Moose is definitely an interesting hitter. But like Hosmer, I'm not too afraid. Doesn't really have a whole lot of power. And then you have maybe Alex Gordon's going to make the lineup, but not afraid of him at all. He's been absolutely awful this year. Looks completely lost. And Chacin could strike him out. Otherwise, he's going to get 5 lefties and then a pitching spot. And at 6.4K on DraftKings, this could be one of those starts where we see Chacin flirt with 10 strikeouts and keep this team down. So he's definitely another pitcher that's on my radar. For hitters, Chacin. I like Moose and Renfroe would be my 2 favorite.
I just can't, as a cash game player, I can't wrap my mind around Chacin.
Man, he's
that
been
19% strikeout rate is.
Yeah,
8% swinging strike rate. That's just
here's the thing though. It's 10%. He's a 10% strikeout rate versus left-hand pitching and a 28% versus right-hand hitters. And if you're going to see you're seeing 5 righties in a pitching spot. And we've seen Chassin do this. He's always a great streaming pitcher versus a right-hand. Like we saw him versus the Brewers. They threw a whole bunch of right-hand bats at him, and he just absolutely dominated them. And it's a great spot. He's got a great upside.
I tell you what, you're talking me on to Chassin because the Royals have the 4th lowest projected total, 3.91 runs, and you're right. If they've only got Moustakas as the only dangerous lefty, because Hosmer's not doing anything in this game, he's hitting singles at worst. This is you got me more interested in the Chassin than I ever thought I could be.
I think that should wrap it up.
Anything else?
No, that should do it.
Okay. Next spot, we have the Toronto Blue Jays and Joe Biagini at Seattle take on the Mariners and Sam Gaviglio. The Blue Jays are minus 115 favorites, 8.5 total. I wrote up Biagini because I like his spot today, and he's a bit cheaper than Brad Peacock. Let me talk about Biagini real quickly. He is the 12th biggest favorite, which isn't something that I'm excited about. It's a road game. Don't like that. But Seattle is a team that, if they don't have Nelson Cruz again, we saw last night, they can be held in check. That offense, they can be a run limitation team. He's got a 3.31 ERA. He strikes out 9.2 hitters per 9 innings. The Mariners have the 11th lowest projected team total. And Biagini's been solid at a $6K price tag on DraftKings. You might have sold me a Chassin at this price tier, but I like Biagini just for this spot, although, man, Chassin at home now against the Royals versus Biagini on the road at Seattle. I'm glad we talked about Chassin. What about Biagini here?
Yeah, really no interest for me. Just, his swinging strike since he's become a starter has dropped weight on. His velocity's dropping down. He's not striking out as many. He's not getting people to swing outside the zone. And even without Nelson Cruz, I think this Mariners lineup is still pretty decent, especially when you get Cano and Seager in there as lefties versus him. And then you have Gamble as, a lefty. You get Zunzino hitting the ball while you get Jared Dyson, who, may not be the, scariest hitter in the world, but doesn't strike out at all. I think it's a bad spot for him. Even at 6K, I just don't see much upside there, and I think some people will be playing him. It isn't for me. It's not I don't think it's a terrible play, but I just don't see the upside needed to really jump on him, especially when there's a lot of guys in his price range that are much better.
We just gave you a better play. Bluff, you talked me into Chassin being a better play than Biagini. And
I know the Mariners struggled yesterday. They've been crushing it. Then they struggled yesterday, but Kyle Gibson looked really good yesterday, and kind of like what we talked.
Both starters did.
Yeah, it's kind of what we talked about. Where if Gibson could actually pitch like he was pitching with runners on the whole time, he's actually gonna be a pretty decent starter, and he showed that. So I'm gonna be definitely looking at Kyle Gibson if he's in good matchups here. I'm hoping people don't catch on, but I'm definitely gonna be looking to play him coming forward. But on the other side, Sammy for the Mariners, still, he's been pitching decent, but to me, he just throws BP when you watch him pitch, and the team eventually is just going to absolutely demolish him. And this Blue Jays team might be that team. I like this whole lineup. I think they might absolutely put up a ton of runs, and I don't think hardly anyone's going to play them.
Yeah, my issue with the Blue Jays offense is who do you play? I can't afford Donaldson, and I'd rather just play Lamb if I'm paying that high. At first base, I'm just finding better options than Smokey Morales. The only guy that's even remotely popping is Jose Bautista in the outfield. He's only 3.5K on DraftKings. That's really weird for a guy that is supposed to be Joey Bats.
Yeah, that is. Just some things on Sam. He gets no swinging strike rates. Doesn't induce hardly any soft contact. Gives us a decent hard contact rate. This guy's got nothing. He shouldn't be in the pros. He just throws a straight fastball a lot of times down the middle. He's not getting any people to really chase. I'm actually surprised he does have a 30% O-swing, which, is right around average. I thought it'd be lower than that. But yeah, he's throwing strikes, and this is a Blue Jays team that loves to hit pitchers like this. It's a perfect matchup for them. Like you said, Batista, great price. Kendry Morales is really cheap on DraftKings too. But for me, it's almost, I won't really look to one-offs here. It's going to maybe be a stack situation or nothing at all. I do think they make a great stack, a great, like on FanDuel especially, a great part of your 4x4, get 4 Blue Jays in there. I think it's a good, I think they're going to be really low owned, and I think they have an opportunity to put on a ton of runs here.
Okay, final game of the night, Minnesota Twins and Irvin Santana in San Francisco taking on Giants and Matt Moore. The Giants are minus 111 favorites. The run total is 8. Irvin Santana is coming off his worst outing of the season where he got absolutely demolished by the Angels. And today he is ludicrously priced on DraftKings at, can you believe they gave that guy a $11K salary?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
will anybody play him? Anybody?
I wouldn't think so, and there's no reason to.
Even in GPP?
It is crazy. I mean, he had a great start to the year, but everything that looked from that start was that he was the same pitcher he's always been, which is, a decent number 3 starter. Not, someone that you don't mind having on your team, but he's going to be right around a 4-run. He's always his whole career been right around a 4-run ERA, SIERA, and xFIP. All his stats all line up perfectly that he is a 4-run pitcher. And he doesn't offer a ton of strikeout upside, especially in San Francisco. There's no reason to pitch him. Matt Moore could be a crazy play today in DraftKings. You love the park. This is a Twins team that relies on power. And it's tough to hit the ball to San Francisco, so he's definitely somewhat interesting. I don't think I'm going to go there. He's not looked at all like his old self, and there's some reasoning for that. He's kind of been trying to change his pitch mix, and it's just not been working out for him, and he just doesn't seem like he's got it figured out right now. So this is pretty much, I want no hitters, no pitchers in this game.
Yeah, this is I've seen a lot of people write up and recommend the Twins righties, Brian Dozier and Miguel Sano, against Matt Moore today, and I'm like, have you not looked at Matt? Matt Moore is a reverse splits guy for the most part with power.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean,
it's the Giants ballpark. Why? I don't understand. Do not play Brian Dozier or Miguel Sano and expect.
Yeah,
it's just not a good outcome expectation spot at their price points.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, in the past, I'm pretty sure Matt Moore was pretty tough on lefties, but this year, you're right. I think it has to do with his pitch mix. He has given up a ton of hard contact, getting hit super hard by left-hand bats, and he's doing, halfway decent versus righties. But yeah, these lefties in the lineup wouldn't make sense anyway. I mean, Kepler, I don't want versus a lefty in this spot.
Don't play Twins or Giants. Yeah, there's better spots. Don't pay up for Buster Posey at catcher. He's just too expensive for this ballpark. It's just not a cash game, or I guess for me, anybody that's on the radar. That is our slate. Massive slate. Thank you for sticking around. Let's sum it up real quickly. For me, cash games, the first place you're going to is Corey Kluber. Obviously, check the weather, but he is your SP1, lock and load on both sides. For SP2, Brad Peacock is your guy. He will be everywhere. But I am intrigued by Jordan Montgomery, Andrew Triggs, and Julius Chassin. For hitters, I want as many Boston Red Sox as I can. Lefties, righties, it doesn't matter. I want the left-handed bats from the Cleveland Indians. I want the Diamondbacks, as many as I can get, preferably those left-handed bats. The Nationals, left-handed bats. The Dodgers right-handed bats, and my favorite stack of the day is the New York Mets left-handed bats against Teheran in Atlanta for cash games. For GBP?
Yeah, Kluber too. He should be popular, but yeah, he has a massive upside. Perfect matchup for him. Tough to say anything bad about Kluber here. For me, Brad Peacock is going to be almost a complete fade. I think it's going to be a rough game for him, and I think he's going to be super high owned. So I'm definitely recommending you completely fade him on DraftKings, the SP2. The SP2s I do like. Jordan Montgomery's my favorite, but Andrew Triggs is definitely in play versus the Rays. Chassin versus the Royals, and I like Randall Delgado versus the Brewers. A lot of that will depend on lineups, so you have to watch when they come out and what I say in my article. For stacks, I agree with you. The Red Sox a great spot, the Mets in a great spot. I don't mind the Tigers either, but they're behind those two for sure. A couple low owned stacks, like I mentioned. I think the Blue Jays will be pretty low owned, and I have a lot of interest in them. I think they make for a great stack, and also the Diamondbacks I think are intriguing. I don't think a lot of people are going to go there today because there are so many other great hitting spots, and if you can get Diamondbacks and Chase low owned, you gotta love that. Should we go into our player draft?
Yeah, what was the final score yesterday? I know a lot of people had DM'd me on Twitter because I dropped off. I had go ahead and list it out.
Yeah, it was. I went with a couple of high bats. I was really going for the win, so I won, but it maybe comes with an asterisk. Your first pick, you took Sano, and then I went Correa and Bryce Harper. And then you took D. Gordon and Hara from the Phillies, and I grabbed Michael Saunders. Saunders, I had 100% in every lineup, and he put up a nice 0. But obviously Harper had the big game with tons of hits and steal. So it was Harper got 22, Correa 10, and then you got 10 from Gordon, 7 in from Hara, and 4 from Sano. So Harper outscored your whole team, so it was 32-21. So
well, let's go. I got first pick then, and I'm gonna steal the guy. Then I'm going. I think he hits a home run today. If I can afford him in my cash games, I'm taking Bryce Harper at home against Andrew Kashner. I think that fly ball rate is going to be a problem, and I think he juices one down the middle, and Harper hits a homer today. He's my top pick.
I will take. I'm going to take Michael Conforto. I'm going to go match you with a left-hand bat. Left-hand outfielder.
He's my second-rated player overall, Conforto. You got the next pick.
And then I'll go with this should be easy. This should be easy. There's too many choices. You know what? I'm going to go with some of my guys. I'm taking Mitch Moreland. Let's get him in there.
All right, so I'll stick with that same game against Jordan Zimmerman. I'm going to take the middle-priced Mookie Betts. I just think today's the day I think he gets multiple hits, possibly stolen base, and maybe even a home run in the spot. I love Mookie Betts. My final pick, I'm going back to the well here. I really love D. Gordon again today. I just think this is a spot where they can't keep him off the bases. And once he gets on there against Glasnow, he's stealing and he's scoring runs today. So I'm going back to the well. D. Gordon, I love his opportunity and upside today.
Yeah, and I have to get at least one Blue Jay in there, so I'll take the cheapest one, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Actually, I'll take Kevin Pillar. I was going to take Jose Bautista, but they're both the same price. Kevin Pillar should be lower on. I'll take Kevin Pillar batting leadoff.
All right, there you go. If you stuck around with us this long, we definitely appreciate it. It is a packed full slate. That's why it took so long. Any final words you want to sum up before we sign off, Bluff?
Yeah, let's hope the Angels crush Peacock. And I did say I was pretty high on Cole Calhoun. I do want to step back a little bit just because the reason I'm a little worried about it is that Astros bullpen is so good, and if Peacock does get hit up, he might only get to face him once or twice. So definitely something to worry about there. But I'm just cheering for Peacock to get killed today, and I hope he's 50% owned in the 1,500 on DraftKings.
Not in cash games. We don't want to get killed in cash games.
Kill him. Negative points. Negative 20.
All right, for Bluff, be on the lookout for his article, A Place to Be, here in a couple hours. Be on the lookout for Tom's Take in a couple hours. And as always, thank you for joining us today. Good night and good skill.
Did you like today's show? Did you find this information to be helpful? Give us a shout out on any social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Of course, don't forget to use the hashtag RotoRadarMLB in your post. Every time you use that hashtag, you'll get a ticket to our $20,000 raffle in July. You heard that right. $20,000. We appreciate every single one of you for being RotoRadar members. On the RotoRadar will be available for members only Monday to Friday for the remainder of the MLB season. As always, good night and good skill. For more information on our raffles, head over to our website, www.rotoradar.net.